stay for house. Eh? This thing, I know say na food na fine. It is hard. But you put me when I stay for house.
Stay for house, I want to just cheap. I want to wait for it. We ourselves, we want to get it. Our children. They will not be able to feed them, and they don't understand themselves. If you go back, you know the feed yourself. You as a mother, if children cry like 2 or 3 children, so I put you again. If you go back, you know the feed. Then me, I can bear it. And the little children can't bear it. That's the way to, and I just think it is succeed. Marriage is our life. Those small things. If not, nobody will not be sharing. Yeah, it's a sickness. Even the man say, if somebody stop, and I mean the first fear, then now with mine, we do this business. With mine.
Because the best way they sell them for now, if you get corona,
yes.
If you contact them from there.
Yes.
But I know say you say that if you don't come out now, you don't go feed your children.
Oh, now this thing will be succeed future. People are the succeed my children. I say I have 6 children.
6 children?
I'm telling you, I have 6 children. I used to do this thing and come out and read them. I don't come out, they do for all. And no one has grown. The first one is 13 days. You don't understand.
So I will give them as much more money now. Put my waist down for that. Because this thing is dangerous now. You can contact something through this. Eh? Madam, you can go house. Eh? It's dangerous to stay here this period.
Thank you.
Go out, eh? All right, okay.
Good morning. That was a video from Dino Malai. They're giving about 10,000 each to the women selling bananas. But people are asking, this 10,000 are actually enough to make them stay off the road and go back home?
And we actually trying to look at it from another angle. If we have more Nigerians coming to do this, who knows? It might actually be, it's something to keep them going for a while we wait on the government for this palliative to reach these people.
Yeah, it was actually a very commendable thing for Dino Malaya to do that. But the thing is that, you know, people do not get enough of everything.
Yes.
I have a feeling that these same women will still come to the street tomorrow to sell bananas.
And apart from that, it's a perfect display of what actually happened in Nigeria or in country. You can look at it from the angle of the welfare of the people, jobs not being enough, so people have to do many jobs or going to petty trading to see that they cater for their family. And then secondly, Dino Malaya coming out with that kind of gesture will actually motivate or spur other people into similar actions. And when we cater for each other, trust me, we can defeat our challenges.
Yeah, like you said, the point being made at the end of the day is that every person can come out to take responsibility to make sure that the people, their neighboring persons, are actually fine during this lockdown period, pending before Monday the 4th when the lockdown will be easing off.
Exactly. It's good to have you join us this morning on Daybreak Africa on television Nigeria. My name is Elvis Oga.
And my name is Mercy Joe.
Another burning issues in the country right now is the rise in the cases of coronavirus in Nigeria.
Yes, about 196 new cases in
Nigeria. When we saw a number yesterday, we thought that was the highest, and then an addition to that,
making 1,728 cases in Nigeria.
A little study on the statistic actually showed me a particular pattern. The case in FCT is taking more like 1 day on, 1 day off.
1 day off.
Because there was a day we had about 15 cases in FCT. The following day we had none. Then another day we had 15 or 16 FCT. The following day we had only 1.
Yes.
That was yesterday.
Yes.
Then this morning 16 FCT again.
And Lagos is always topping the chart with about 87 new cases.
You know,
and Kano is now always following suit, 24 new cases.
When you mention Lagos and Kano, you need to look at their population density, and then you see that it has played a very major role there. Another angle I always look at it, or I want us to look at it from, is the number of tests being carried out. Because the more tests we carry out, the more of these cases or the more
possibility
status we will know.
Exactly. But discharged cases as of recent are 307 cases and 51 deaths. And statistics shows that the male persons being affected by the virus are about 66%, while the female is just under 34%.
Okay, so if you want to look at it clinically or scientifically,
it means that the men are more prone to
this,
because
maybe owing to some hormones and other factors.
So, because I read a news yesterday. A man tested positive in Ebonyi State. He came in from Delta. He's a 27-year-old man. He had a pregnant wife who was 7 months pregnant, and you can't tell me they haven't been so much in contact with each other before coming down to Ebonyi State. But he tested positive twice, and she tested negative twice. There's a lot of questions about that.
You know, if you take a look at the immune system of a woman, or the system of a woman generally, the way it's being built, you will notice that there are some advantage in it. I particularly came across a research sometimes where they were talking about if a man and a woman are both stabbed at the same time, there's this amount of blood a woman loses, and then she still stays alive. A man cannot, compared to a man.
A man can't.
So some of those things we need to look at them, and then possibly this will help inform people that are going to research on how possible they can go about finding a cure or a vaccine to this pandemic.
And these days we're getting age numbers of about 20-something, that 24 years old, 27 years old, 30-something that are now
even
getting
from that little
virus.
statistics, the people that are more affected in this part of the world are people within their 30s and 40s, and that's actually a serious issue of concern.
But the thing is that those people are the ones affected. They're getting affected, but I think there are just very little cases of them actually dying. The deaths still come from those that are above 50. Because I think those above 50 already have pending ailments before the virus actually came in.
We actually saw a comment accredited to Lagos State Health Commissioner where he said the coronavirus actually attacked kidney and blood. And you were saying that's why it's very dangerous, because it has to affect something very essential, important in the body system for it to take this, this ugly face.
I think yesterday we were having a discussion about the federal government coming to give full awareness about what they meant by the gradual easing of the lockdown from Monday, the 4th of May. So the Presidential Task Force came yesterday and they said governmental offices will be opened and banks will be opened. So
and then talking about the easing of the lockdown in phases stretching about 6 weeks. And then, like the government offices, there's been segmented into level, people with from level 13 and above being allowed. And there are some guidelines.
And a particular percent of persons that should still come to work.
Lagos State governor actually coming to give some guidelines as well. But the problem is, how well are we going to abide or adhere to these things? That's
always the thing. I think they still said to sanitizers and all that. Okay, this is still Daybreak Africa here on Television Nigeria. Let's join Susan Archie on the news desk.
Wash your hands, big jam, then I take the whistle. Don't touch your face, don't go to the doctor, just call, then I take the whistle.
Ocurre corona, que disease. Ocurre corona.
That everyone is a potential victim, but the good news is that everyone is a potential solution. Sensitize the masses to sanitize, keep a social distance and quarantine. Stop!
The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted. Kila mtu must be alert. a lot, it's a matter of life we can never take for granted. Discipline and personal hygiene, and make sure you regularly wash your hands. Keep a distance from everyone. Report anything like a symptom. Serious fever is a symptom. Dry cough is a symptom. Walkway tamula is a symptom. Itchy eyes and flu is a symptom.
Kumo butabusiga wejemu batanalwala olago moyo gwe gwanga labira ku itale abasinga bafudde okuwewala kisingako bujanjaba. The coronavirus is sweeping over mankind.
Everybody must be alert. It's a global pandemic we can never take for granted.
Omulwadde wa corona.
Good morning and welcome to AM News. I am Susan Achin. The arrival of more than 200 Cuban medics in South Africa to help battle coronavirus has received mixed reactions, with some of the sharpest criticisms coming from the South African Medical Association, SAMA. The organization, which represents about 16,000 health workers, says it welcomes extra hands but says unemployed local medics should have been given priority. There have also been raised eyebrows about a Business Life article saying it is going to cost taxpayers 440 rand to have the Cubans in the country for a year. Health Minister Zweli Mkhize has sought to play down the concerns, saying no jobs would be threatened. He added that the Cuban medics were particularly experienced in community medicine. Nigeria has recorded 196 new cases of the novel coronavirus, bringing the country's total infections to 1,728. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC), in the early hours of Thursday, of the new infections, 87 are in Lagos, 24 are in Kano, while 18 are in Gombe. 17 were recorded in Kaduna, 16 in the FCT, 10 in Katsina, 8 in Sokoto, 7 in Edo, 6 in Borno, and 1 each in Yobe, Ebonyi, and Adamawa states. With this development, the NCDC notes that the coronavirus has now spread to 34 of 36 states of the country, including the FCT. 307 persons have been discharged, while 51 deaths have so far been recorded. Now, 2 prison guards and 5 inmates died during an attempted jailbreak and ensuing riot in Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown, on Wednesday, the police said. Authorities discovered the colonial-era prison Pademba Road prison ablaze on Wednesday morning and rushed security officers to secure the scene. Details about the cause of the violence were sketchy, but it followed the recent confirmation of a coronavirus case in the jail. Police Superintendent Abu B. Kalon said in a statement on Wednesday that 7 had died in the unrest, including 2 guards and 5 inmates. Now, Guinea-Bissau's Prime Minister Nuno Gomes Nabiem has tested positive for the novel coronavirus alongside 3 members of his cabinet, the Health Ministry said on Wednesday. Nabiem, Inter-Minister Bochi Kande, and 2 other ministers were diagnosed on Tuesday and have been quarantined at a hotel in the capital, Bissau, Health Minister Antonio Diuna told journalists. Now back to Nigeria, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has announced that government offices and banks can resume operations from Monday, the 4th of May. This follows approval of the phased easing of the lockdown in Lagos, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory by President Muhammadu Buhari to allow for the restoration of socio-economic activities. However, there would be a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. curfew to regulate the movement of people. Given a breakdown of how the easing of the lockdown will be implemented, the national coordinator of the Presidential Task Force, Aliyu Sani, during Wednesday's briefing, said all government offices and banks can resume operations on Monday. The social media platform TikTok and philanthropic Gates Foundation donated $10 million each on Wednesday to the Vaccine Alliance Gavi to help fund efforts to tackle the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. Gavi said the funds would be used to distribute and deploy any new vaccines against COVID-19 once they are developed, tried, and licensed. We now move on to the world of business, where Zimbabwe's central bank said on Wednesday that it would cut its main lending rate to 15% from 25% effective from May 1st as part of measures to help the economy deal with the effects of the coronavirus outbreak. The Southern African nation's economy was already experiencing its worst crisis in a decade, with fast rising inflation and shortages of food and other basic goods. Now onto the entertainment scene. Nigerian singer Olawale Oloforo, popularly known as Brimo, is currently trending on Twitter after a user accused him of molestation. The lady, identified as Billy Quiz, appeared to have spoken up on behalf of the victim who was allegedly abused by the musician. Billy Quiz shared a screenshot of the lengthy narration which went down by the accuser. In the narration, the lady started out by categorically stating that she was molested by the singer. Well, that's a sad one there, and that's the much we can take on AM News. I am Susan Achin. Good morning.
Good morning, Susan.
Good morning. Good morning, Elvis. Good morning, Mercy.
Good morning, Susan.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you very much.
Most prominently, critics or criticism trailing the arrival of medics from Cuba to South Africa.
This seems to me like more like a repetition of what happened in Nigeria when the government decided to accept help from China. You know, the health sector wasn't really comfortable with the whole idea. I feel feel threatened, and I think the next time government wants to take decisions to bring in people to help, they should consult properly with the health sector, because these people are working round the clock to ensure that everybody's safe. So it wouldn't be good if they would bring in people, you know, without having a proper conversation and coming to a compromise.
So there will not be lots of grumbles.
Exactly.
This is an interesting part of it where they were talking about giving more attention to local
health workers
and all of that. And then for the president to come out to say, okay, these people coming from Cuba are actually so grounded
and experience in community, health issues.
It's actually a good one. If you take a look at Cuba, it's one country that actually take their education so serious. Like it's a crime in Cuba not to be educated. So if you look at those things, it's quite a good one. And then what we are now expecting is that, okay, those locally made cure or prospective cure and vaccine should be given utmost attention even while they come. So it's not as if let them come and do their own thing, but collaborate with the local.
Yeah, more like imagine, you know, that would do. That would do
just well.
All right, we'll now go across Africa for some more news. Stay with us.
This is News Across Africa on Daybreak Africa. An Ivorian court on Tuesday sentenced former Prime Minister Guillaume Soro, who has been living in exile since December 2019, to 20 years in prison for corruption. The ruling likely to end Soro's political ambition with 7 months to go before the presidential election, for which he has assured to remain a candidate. He was found guilty of embezzlement of public funds and money laundering when he bought his Abidjan residence in 2007, when he was Prime Minister of a government of national unity. Lawyers for the former Speaker of the Ivorian National Assembly boycotted the hearing, which lasted for about 3 hours, saying it is politically motivated trial. The implementation of a mammoth African Free Trade Agreement will not begin on July 1 as planned due to disruption caused by the coronavirus outbreak, a senior official said on Tuesday. It is obviously not possible to commence trade as we had intended on July 1 under the current circumstances, Wamkele Mene, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, said during a conference call. The 55-nation Continental Free Trade Zone would, if successful, create a $3.4 trillion economic bloc with 1.3 billion people across Africa and constitute the largest new trading bloc since the World Trade Organization formed in 1994. Mene said he was confident the deal will still go forward. Chad on Tuesday abolished the Death Penalty for Terrorists Act, quashing an exemption that was on the books for 4 years. Justice Minister Jimet Arabi told newsmen the Sahel country passed legislation in 2016 to abolish capital punishment, but made an exemption for those who carry out the act of terrorism. Arabi, who proposed the amendment, said the vote was unanimous and the law will come into force once it is approved by President Idris Deby, whose party enjoys a huge majority in parliament. Malawi launches emergency cash transfer program targeting about 1 million people and small businesses affected by the coronavirus pandemic, President Arthur Peter Maturika said on Tuesday. Eligible households will receive a 35,000 Malawi kwacha, which is roughly $40 monthly payment, matching the country's minimum wage, through mobile cash transfers starting in May, Maturika said. This will strengthen livelihood This will strengthen livelihood, Mutharika said in a nightly national address on state television without specifying how long the program will last. The low-income country, which so far has seen 36 positive cases of COVID-19 and 3 deaths, has suffered from economic stagnation in recent years, leading to increasing unrest over falling living standards. That is the much we have for you on News Across Africa. Daybreak Africa continues shortly.
Welcome back. It's still Daybreak Africa on television Nigeria. We now head straight to a newspaper review where we take some headlines on making round across different national dailies.
And not forgetting that we have Victor Temba in the building with us to share more insights on the newspaper review. Good morning, Victor.
Good morning, Mercy. Good morning.
Hope you slept fine.
Yes, very well.
Hope you're feeling fine. I can see that.
I always feel fine.
Okay, moving to the Punch newspaper. The headlines: Federal government directs banks, government offices, firms to reopen Monday. Schools remain shut. Public transport to operate 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Kano must accept medical autopsy results, says presidency. Ban on interstate movement not enough to curb COVID-19 and MA.
So, where do we start from? The federal government telling banks, directing banks to open and government businesses.
Yes.
Then I think that is basically wonderful for these businesses to open. Government must go on, business must go on, the economy doesn't have to be at a standstill.
Yes.
I don't know, and then it has to go on. And also, listen, kudos to the president for saying that Kano State government must accept medical as an autopsy. I think that is the only way we can really ascertain the cause
because
of
that
death
verbal
of this.
testing is not going to go any long way.
And then they're also looking at the fact that transport companies will work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It means that now companies have to adapt and adjust to that workers will not have to be coming late, because there are workers that stay in certain areas that requires them to wake up as early as 5 a.m. I mean, not even because 5 a.m. As 5 a.m. you're already on the road going to work. That is, if you do not have a private, you beat traffic and then you avoid the hustle and bustle of getting vehicles and all of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Interestingly, NM is saying banning interstate movement is not enough to contain or combat COVID-19.
Well, it isn't like it is the
a complete.
It's not the only measure that government is taking to combat. Okay. We are saying, but these are all measures. Declaring a lockdown is not the most efficient way to curb the virus, but then it's just a measure that will go a long way in for us trying to solve this solution.
Because
so
there are still cases.
Because then when you look at other states that just got this virus, they didn't just stay in their state and then the virus fell from somewhere. Somebody moved from one state to the other state and then infected. Places like Bayelsa, Ebonyi, Ondo, talk about other states as well, Adamawa including. These are people that migrated from one state to another,
even
including
Kaduna.
Gombe and Borno. Yes, so it's actually a measure. If that measure had been on ground, perhaps maybe we wouldn't have had so much.
Because now only 3 states are not affected.
About 34 already affected.
Yes.
Okay, away from that, from the Daily Sun, banner headline reads: Offices, free movement banned to resume Monday. Schools, worship centers remain closed. That is coming from the Presidential Task Force. COVID-19 vaccine ready by September. And below the picture story, NDDC sends key officials on compulsory leave as forensic audit begins.
The NDDC, yeah, that agency, as we've known, has been like a cesspool of recent corruption from the very moment it was conceived and vetted. I think that was like in 2002 by election President Olusegun regime, and from that moment until this moment, it has been one allegation of corruption to another allegation of corruption. Yes, which include embezzlement, and then there was also the case of one of their DG that was said to be paying 1.5 billion naira to what you call this less about just to get contracts, make sure he remains in position, all of that. So it seems like the NDDC has a lot of money to go around that people just come in, steal, and then it becomes an issue all the time.
Wonderful. Moving further, the Daily Times newspaper, COVID-19, PTF unveils guidelines for easing of lockdown. Banks to open for operations from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. effective May 4th. schools, religious centers to remain closed, bans all interstate travels. I think most of the newspapers this morning are carrying the guidelines for easing of the lockdown.
Exactly.
These schools still remain shut down.
Yeah, I think that's why most people are now clamoring for e-learning. Therefore, maybe, but then they also realize that there are a lot of challenges with the e-learning stuff because electricity is a problem, internet, less kind of internet connectivity is also a problem. Affordability of data is also an issue, and then access to this sort of how many people, how many of these children at the grassroots level or the rural areas have this gadget. Did government provide? Maybe government will now start making plans to provide, but then at this moment, government making plans to provide and tackle COVID-19, and also making plans
provide
to
palliatives and still provide.
Yeah, so it might just be kind of overwhelming for the government, but then it's actually daunting. But I think it is not impossible.
Yeah, because most children in the rural areas, their parents, maybe the kind of phones that the parents have are just not internet.
And then even those that have phones that are internet enabled do not really know how to use to navigate them. You know, it is a fact that people that use smartphone use less than 20% of the features that the phone provides, and all of that. People go out, for example, people will go out in a day and then rain falls on them. So, or they just meet the rain when the app could have told them that
it's probably going to be rainfall today. Okay, away from that, from the Nigeria Tribune, COVID-19, white Nigerians are talking about black seed oil. Still on COVID-19, Osun raises alarm as Zamfara indigents sneak into state, deploys Amotekun at borders mining site. CBN resumes dollar sales for SMEs school fees as Naira falls to 450. Federal government disburses 43.41 billion Naira grant to 24 eligible states.
That is actually good. And then let's look at the case of Osun. Osun has not been the only state complaining that some people from the north are sneaking into the state, but they are just the latest state to complain of that. That people coming from Zamfara state, and you're wondering how are they sneaking into the
are their borders
state?
not closed?
So what other ways were they able to access the state? Are there other routes apart from the normal ones and that is very possible anyway, because sometimes you have an official border and then you have the unofficial border, so people can move into another.
Welcome to Nigeria, where everything is possible. Moving to the Guardian newspaper. Senate to write Buhari over dead lawmaker on FCC board. Lagos businesses open 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. from next week.
Wow. So you see, Lagos State coming up with a different plan. Lagos State operates entirely not according to the dictates of the federal government. They basically understand that they are peculiar, they have more or less peculiar needs and responsibilities.
And they exert their full sovereignty as a state.
As a state. So why the federal government will look like you open 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. They are looking at you go from 9 a.m. to
3 p.m.
And he
highlighted that's because the sun is actually most prominent at this period. And then it's samples of research have shown that this virus does not actually fare well in the sun.
And then when you look at it, 9 o'clock is when that morning sun is actually coming out and shining. I think at that time, that is when the sun gradually leaves the area where it gives you less than vitamin D and then start giving you less than vitamin headache.
And I think he's going to employ more security personnel to be around to check that people are actually.
Although I saw the guidelines he brought yesterday and it was
very encouraging and makes so much sense. Even the Okada banning and all of that.
Okay, away from that, let's check out headlines from the Daily Independent, where we have this banner headline that says FG considers herbal medicine to treat COVID-19 patients. Issues guidelines for gradual reopening of nation's economy. Says business in Lagos, Ogun, FCT can reopen Monday. All worship centers, schools remain closed. That is Lagos State government saying that.
Of course, they just have to remain closed. It's the same thing basically everywhere else, that schools and all of this need to remain closed. Don't need to open entirely.
Okay, let us touch on federal government considering herbal medicine to treat COVID-19.
Definitely. I think that is long overdue. We know that we've gotten people come out with herbal research and say this is something very good. In fact, even on this station TVN, we've had somebody coming to say that his product, he has done this research and it can cure. And that in fact he has done a research before and came out with something that even helped people who had HIV come out from
even sickle cell.
Yeah, and all of that. And then people need to, because there are other people coming out with this. We don't think that it is something that will be too difficult for us to contain or treat with our this local health, because it's more about boosting the immune system, let it be stronger and fight this virus on your behalf. One thing about these viruses is that they always attack the immune system. Yeah, so it's when we basically HIV in the first instance, what it does is just to attack the immune system. Once the immune system is down, what happens? Every other thing can come in. So even the anti-bacterial drug for HIV, what it basically does is to
build
your immune system strong, and then you continue to live on for a very long time. So I think this is what these people do. And then when you look at this virus, it's not as deadly as the HIV. So once your immune system is strong, it keeps fighting the virus for you until the virus either get tired or it's killed, and then you are back to normal.
Okay, because of time, let's take the Business Day newspaper. Poultry farmers hurting as lockdown hits demand for eggs and birds.
Definitely. I don't know when last a lot of people will be demanding, but then they should also understand that right now the lesson president has made it quite clear, so I don't think they should really be that affected.
Yeah, they are included
times,
now.
Yeah, of course, maybe in terms of getting transport to move your products and all of those things. But now, as business producers, they can easily supply to their clients who buy all of this, and then onward to the other consumers.
But should we be expecting them to have there to be like a crate of egg normally is 1,000? So now should we be expecting them to make it 1,500?
Well, you know the issue is everything has
increased,
doubled or almost increased in price, and this is for no reason. It's for no reason other than this in COVID-19. So you could expect this to get higher. Though I also understand that why they are still available to supply. They also know that the demand has really dropped because a lot of people are not coming out and all of this. Most people are trying to ration how much they spend their money. So not everybody will be willing to buy as much eggs as they used to do. I used to do before, and not much people want to even eat egg in order way to cut costs and then go on to survive. So some people would rather find other means, other alternatives to protein of meat, fish, and egg to something else entirely.
Okay, thank you so much, Victor, for joining us. That will be all for now on Newspaper Review. Now let's take you to our head school and see some healthy living on meningitis.
Welcome to another episode of Healthy Living. Today I'll be talking on meningitis. Meningitis is an inflammation of the membrane surrounding your brain and spinal cord. The swelling from meningitis typically triggers symptoms such as headache, fever, and a stiff neck. Some cases of meningitis improve without treatment in a few weeks. Others can be life-threatening and require emergency antibiotic treatment. Possible signs and symptoms in anyone older than the age of 2 include sudden high fever, stiff neck, severe headache that seems different than normal headache with nausea or vomiting, confusion or difficulty concentrating, sensitivity to light, no appetite or thirst, skin rash. Infants with meningitis may be difficult to comfort and may even cry harder when down with high fever. Seek immediate medical care if you or someone in your family has meningitis symptoms. Bacterial meningitis is serious and fatal within days without prompt antibiotic treatment. Delayed treatment increases the risk of permanent brain damage or death. It's also important to talk to your doctor if a family member or someone you work with has meningitis. You may need to take medications to prevent getting the infection. Viral infections are the most common causes of